Things slowly coming into place for UCLA football, and hey, maybe the roster's starting to look like a real roster until some big coaching bombshells happened. And then, hey, UCLA basketball, will they actually figure it out? Next on Locked On UCLA.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, review. Thanks for your support every and every day. Thanks for talking and listening through the struggle that it is this UCLA men's basketball season, getting through the UCLA football season. We got some fun stuff coming up. And hey, these days, every potential new hire feels like a high-stakes wager for your small business, which is why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Are there any conditions to what UCLA offered its recruits, the commits they got, to the new coaches they've either hired or reportedly hired to slowly fill the coaching vacancies in this now 2024 offseason for Chip Kelly and company? Well, where we start with UCLA football, they've gotten a transfer portal commit. Books and ball lives on for UCLA. I believe getting their fourth now Ivy League transfer. You've got Powers, you had Heimlich here, you had Sykes. Now you've got the likes of the new linebacker from Yale, Joseph Vaughn, for UCLA coming in to use that last year of eligibility as a Bruin. And you've got coaching vacancies filled a little bit, even some maneuvering you thought might happen, not happening. And yes, as we've seen, these commits probably not always solidified to the last minute, but under the Chip Kelly mantra, books and ball, I think Vaughn is here to stay. That is my thought. And finish off his collegiate playing career as a UCLA Bruin at the FBS level. Now a Big Ten team. And then now you've got the likes of multiple coaches coming in to fill those vacancies. So first, let's talk about some of the vacancies. I was reading what it said on the 24/7 Sports site from Matt Zenitz, who reported that Billy Fessler, former Penn State quarterback, the Akron offensive coordinator, a little brain fart there for a moment, he is now the new UCLA quarterbacks coach. And I did read thinking, hey, was there any chance Jerry Neuheisel jumps over to be the new QB coach and you shift things around? Nope. Fessler is going to be the UCLA coach reportedly for the quarterback's room. I know Chip Kelly stepped in there for the LA Bowl game, probably got a good evaluation of what he had for this year's team coming up, which gives me, a lot of, confidence in saying that they're going to keep with Ethan Garbers in 24 and utilize Colin Schlee in a similar role like they did in 2023. Hopefully that neither quarterback gets too banged up. Now that's just up to the recruiting side of things to fill the holes, or the offensive line just overall as a unit to get better with the youth and the portal and just overall consistency from year to year. UCLA bringing in that new Akron or offensive coordinator didn't have the best offense in the FBS for certain, but he can certainly help out the quarterback's room. And when UCLA visits Penn State in early October, it'll be a homecoming of sorts for Billy Fessler. Then you've got the likes of, not official, this is from Bro Report that I saw, Tony Washington Jr., an analyst over in Oregon, who knows, maybe he knows things that we don't, because after he officially became and got promoted to be an official coach on the UCLA roster, you have the likes of Nick Saban retiring reportedly. And then you've got Dan Lanning as one of the favorites to go get the new Alabama job that's reportedly open. Also, Washington's head coach in Kalen DeBoer. Maybe he saw something early, or most importantly, he saw, hey, I can go be the D-line and edge rushing coach at UCLA. You've got Ikaika Malloy, who is promoted in-house to be the defensive coordinator. And while there'll still be a lot, what it looks like from reading from Bro Report, and obviously with what Malloy was able to help Leatu Latu do, see what everybody did the last couple of years in the D-line room, I think you would like Malloy to stick in, and Washington Jr. moving from analyst to a coaching role, You can kind of have a combination there between defensive coordinator, a newer coach coming from the analyst level from Oregon, and then UCLA can slowly build on what they're doing. Not the biggest of holes to fill. Obviously, they already had the big one, the defensive coordinator spot filled by Malloy, but that leaves openings and opportunities for new guys. The biggest name of the coaches they brought in was one moving from behind the scenes to the coaching roles, Ken Niumatalolo, and I think that's a great hire for him to be the tight ends coach on the offensive side of things, and some youngsters or some guys moving up into bigger roles or to bigger schools, depending on which way you look at it. For one, Fessler from a school perspective going to UCLA. For Washington, it's him moving into a bigger role, obviously, to an assistant coaching job. I wonder what this means for UCLA and if any of these guys can go recruit, go help out, go build the roster. Maybe Fessler can go get UCLA that next quarterback, right? Go get the next big quarterback that can help lead UCLA in the future post-Garbers, post-Schlee, if that guy isn't already on their roster currently. Now, I wonder with all the crazy retirements, right? Of course, he had the likes of Pete Carroll step down from being the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. You have the reports of Nick Saban retiring from Alabama. Now I wonder if there's going to be any chaos that in the swing of things changes UCLA's portal outlook in April after the spring practices close to it. And then also, how does that affect the coaching, right? Because if that job's open, that means somebody who's already solidified in their current spot is going to move. And then that means someone's going to go fill that spot. It's like every job, right? If someone moves up, someone's going to go jump and take that spot, all right? Say you need to go fill a CEO position, someone will get promoted, someone's going to take that spot. There's a ripple effect all around college football when arguably the biggest name at probably one of the bigger football universities in America, obviously, simple Captain Obvious right there. There's going to be a lot of things that can change from the likes of portal commitments, guys not locking with the new coaching staff that is brought in to replace that coach that left for the bigger job. Maybe that might have an impact for UCLA. Currently, there is none, although I do wonder, hey, maybe say let's live in a hypothetical world, right? You've got Washington and Oregon's head coaches currently who are slightly linked at the moment with big buyouts and big contracts to the Alabama job. I'm not sure that DeBoer would get it. And I'm not sure how current Lanning is. I saw the report that Lanning is a favorite of sorts to get the Alabama job. Is there any chance UCLA steals a recruit or two that flips from an Oregon to UCLA? Someone that's like, hey, I'm going to go down south and go play for Chip Kelly. I know there's the jokes and maybe the trolls, maybe the truth to the idea that Oregon would go hire back Chip Kelly to Oregon after it's all said and done. I'm not really sure that, other than a couple of laughs. The real legitimacy of that, but still it could affect things from the assistance level all the way down to going to get a kid that could be a difference maker from one school to the next, right? You see two quarterbacks already committing to Oregon. Then what if Lanning leaves? Does that mean something for Gabriel? Obviously, Dante Moore already left UCLA. Those are all little things to keep an eye on moving forward for UCLA. Yet, will they really be a player for these guys? As I started out with this show, books and ball. Chip Kelly throwing that out in 2022. He's continuing to go get the Ivy League guys. 4 separate guys, some special teamers. And Vaughn will continue the trend of Chip Kelly, one, until Ratcliffe had decommitted, going to play an opponent he played in the year prior and plucking one of those players and putting him on his roster the next year. And then 2, finding someone to come over from the likes of the Ivy League to come play for UCLA, the books and ball mantra, where it is still very tough to get into UCLA. And with now the likes of the NIL support not there for either football, and as Mick Cronin will talk about in a minute, talking about the lack of NIL support for basketball, how much has that affected UCLA's recruiting? Now, Chip Kelly already has been widely known not to be the greatest high school recruiter, does enough to go get players in the portal. How much has that all affected things for UCLA? Well, books and ball was, the running joke, and it was a feel-good story, if you will, when UCLA was succeeding very well under DTR, Charbonnet, and the well-read, the well-oiled machine that was the UCLA offense that did just enough defensively in 22 to be very competitive in a solid year for the Pac-12. A similar like offense last year would have gotten them much better year, right? Any semblance of a offense. If UCLA football or the men's basketball team could play any offense, imagine what their years could have looked like, right? You've got good defense by youngsters for Mick Cronin. You've got the likes of a standout defense for Chip Kelly in 23. If either team could have played a lick of offense, scored any points, imagine how different the conversations and the feelings towards the current or next seasons would be. Now UCLA is slowly filling up the roster. And I know there's nothing I can say that can truly convince you if you're hard set on UCLA being a 6-7 win team, a 4-5 win team heading into Big Ten. I would hope to have some optimism, even as we all are very sour on this last year from Chip Kelly. Can we try and figure it out for the next season? The offense bound to have a bounce back. Any semblance of a pass blocking upgrade for UCLA, whether it's just improvements individually for UCLA overall, this team could have a bounce back year offensively in the Big Ten, which is why we'll talk more football in future podcasts. Speaking of offensive struggles, obviously, Mick Cronin, his silence, quote unquote, yelling at his team, not making the presser, talk to the media. What does it look like when they head into Salt Lake City against a scrappy Utah team that's better than a year before and UCLA much worse? Can the Bruins use that as a springboard to success for the rest of the season? All that and more next on Locked On UCLA. Well, it's the start of the new year. Every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll make my business go to the next level in 2024? Whether it's Mick Cronin going towards what's the recruiting? Can I hit the portal, go find new guys, and improve my roster for the next year? Is it Chip Kelly trying to figure out things for all those players and his coaching staff? All you know is that if you're sitting there as an actual small business owner, LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not another job board. Small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one, delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. You're wearing so many hats. LinkedIn knows that and might not have the time or the resources to hire. The process is intuitive, quick, and easy, so post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Second segment of the Locked On UCLA podcast. Zach with you guys. We're flipping the script, going to the hardwood, talking UCLA men's basketball. The big story, Mick Cronin going berserk. The Bruins losing to Cal, losing 3 in a row, 4 in a row at home, and have not cracked 60 points since their Pac-12 opening win against Oregon State on the road, and have been struggling to ever get to the 70-point plateau, which they last reached near the middle of December in a loss against CSUN at home. So where does the team go, right? Is it youth? Is it the struggle? I was reading an older article from ESPN about how the age, Mick Cronin talks about this all the time, and you'll see a lot of players talk about the older age we're in college basketball with the COVID year, NIL enticing those fringe players to stay, the COVID year getting a lot of players to stay for that extra year, or guys who would have graduated are using that extra year to keep playing and find with the portal 1, now 2, maybe 3 or 4 homes, right? In the most extreme scenario. And UCLA has none of those guys, whether it's veteran guys who have done it at the biggest stages with big numbers. They did not hit the portal for big names. I know Stefanovic was the only portal get for UCLA in this last year. And where is the offense going to come from? Well, Mick Cronin did have to apologize, or he did not have to, but he apologized to the media for missing the post-game presser, talking about how his team needs him. Some of the quotes were, against Cal, he felt that that was the first game his team was out-hustled. And if UCLA is getting out-hustled, they're not good enough to beat anybody, whether it's at home or on the road, anywhere on the in the universe, if they're getting out-hustled, to not play with any semblance of heart. Not that Mick Cronin went above and beyond, but he made sure to point that out to his team, who cannot score any points. And he's looking at it from all scenarios, including tapping into Adai Mater's potential, which has been something and only that potential not realized in the court. If he can get that passing ability going, if he can get that hook shot, the baby sky hook that Mick Cronin praised so heavily in the preseason, either was he gaslighting us or is he being serious? Well, he'll get this opportunity. Mara, who was very late to the game and getting eligible to play for UCLA, late in getting over to Westwood, could not play in Spain, even though he probably saw the team. He did see the team when they came through Spain in their international trip. So can he develop and become an offensive presence? Anybody needs to score at an efficient rate. Anybody and everybody for a young team in an older time in college basketball, where it's just quite a struggle to find players, find teams that who do not have older guys on their team truly succeed consistently. We're a little more than a decade removed from the one and done Kentucky teams in Kentucky years. And yet here we are watching a UCLA team struggle significantly in a year where there's a lot of youth for this team. Looking at freshmen, I was reading a 24/7 Sports article where we're talking about coaches who had big victories and quotes from other coaches, right? Nebraska just took down number one Purdue, which doesn't seem to be that hard nowadays. Still, he had 8 guys play for Nebraska that beat Purdue by 16. None of them were freshmen. None of them. None of the players Nebraska played for an upstart Cornhusker team had freshmen playing in that game. Oklahoma coach Porter Moser talking about at Big 12 Media Days way back when. It's hard in this league, he's talking about the Big 12, for freshmen to play. Can you sign 4 or 5 freshmen nowadays and play them? It's easy to transfer. It's a hard dynamic. And one of the big things that UCLA has is a lot of freshmen. You take a look at some of these conferences that have true freshmen on their rosters, right? The Pac-12 has around 40 freshmen, true freshmen on its rosters, all across the conference. And who is playing with basically the most amount, right? Who is playing with so much relying upon youth and inexperience? It's this young UCLA team, which cannot score points. We're going to talk about that in a second, against teams that have given up more than 70 points per game. A young team that's going into a tough run in Utes arena that already beat BYU in front of a sellout crowd, their bitter in-state Holy War rival, who is now a Big 12 member, and got that dub. Is there any way UCLA can, with a younger roster, go into a place where there's veterans on a team, and can Stefanovic maybe rekindle some magic, hit some threes in front of the place he transferred away from to go play at UCLA? Is that the case? Well, what is a way for UCLA and its young roster to get a dub? Can they get the win against Utah, who's 11-4, 2-2 in Pac-12 play, and get a big road win that could potentially be used as a springboard for success in the end? UCLA has not scored 60 points in their last few games in Pac-12 play. They've scored 57, 53, 59, all losses. Yet the one game they scored 60 points. So once they cracked that code, it was a 69-62 win against Oregon State back on December 28th. A little disheartening loss to Oregon where they could have won, and then just stunning losses at home to Stanford and Cal. You now play a Utah team, the third straight team UCLA plays, that gives up 70 or more points. Stanford scores. Cal, they score. They just never usually come out on the winning end. And Utah, coming into this game, averages close to 80 points per game while allowing close to 72. As just about every UCLA game dictates, the defense is good enough with a Dembona out of foul trouble to keep teams under 70 for sure, well below 80, and much closer to 60 to 50 points. The question is, when will UCLA play against a team that gives up 70 more points and actually score those 70 points? Utah this year has seen teams hit 34% of their threes, which is nothing crazy, right? When you consider now UCLA is potentially with more poor three-point shooting performances having its near worst three-point shooting season in its entirety as a program, arguably, right? They're under 30% as a team. That is not good for a team that Mick Cronin says he needs more passing, finding open shooters for threes in the corner. He wants this team to take more threes, is what he was quoting on saying. But it's based on passing, based on moving the ball and getting the open guy the right shot. Now, who is the open guy and what is the right shot? Just because you're open, should you take it? Now, that's the conundrum UCLA is facing. Tough contested twos, forcing it inside to turn it over, and only sometimes convert into paint, and then just missing a lot of three-point shots that most guys just aren't making this year at a consistent enough rate since the team came back from Hawaii. Again, we'll ask, can Bona stay out of foul trouble? If he does, Utah will not score anywhere near 80 points. Just by Bona staying out of foul trouble and playing closer to 30 to 35 minutes against some of Utah's best player, of course, you'll remember this name, Brandon Carlson, Raleigh Wooster, Cole Bajema, and Gabe Madsen, some players transferring over from other teams in the Pac-12, some familiar names for the run and Utes team for this Utah squad. Yeah, simply from Bona playing, he could neutralize Carlson with his uber athleticism. And if him being on the floor is significant, it's because UCLA wants to play Mata alongside Bona to mix and match an offensive capable big man in the post while allowing Bona to utilize his athleticism all around the defensive end. If he stays on the floor, Utah's not going to come close to their 80 points in regulation that they average. That is my thought. That's my thought. If he's on the floor and out of foul trouble. If UCLA is going to shoot more threes, I'd love to see one more guy take more. Will McClendon. Can Bettercake get on the floor and take more jump shots, closer to 10, 12 shots a game? Again, even if he's not hitting them, I'd like to see Bettercake taking them. He's proven just from the eye test and the few shots he's made in a couple of these UCLA close losses that he is the guy that can go create and make his own shot and actually make it look good while doing it. Those guys need to take more shots. If you're looking for players to take more threes, those are the two that have to do it. Now, obviously, there will be the emotional side for Lazar Stefanovic coming back to Utah after a couple of seasons as a youngster going through the Ute system. I would love to see him have a good game. 15 points on efficient shooting. He's going to play a lot of minutes as UCLA needs somebody to shoot the basketball with efficiency. That is the clear struggle for this team. A woeful offense that Mick Cronin knows. We all know. It's the worst kept secret in all of the West Coast of all the country. UCLA cannot score, and they do not move it. They play at a bad pace. They don't run out and get easy buckets. And when they need to get a stop and they've just made a clutch bucket, they generally give up a basket. Something miraculous that really breaks it down, or just terrible defense. It's never good, consistent, long stretches of hoop where you get to see either team, both sides of the basketball, right? Both sides for UCLA, offense and defense, gelling beautifully at the same time. That's just not happened for this team consistently against any good team. Specifically, I guess you can't even see away from home because they haven't now done it at home or on the road with 4 straight home losses. It's been a while since UCLA has had 4 consecutive home losses. The big names, Brandon Carlson for Utah, he averages close to 17.5 points per game. Gabe Madsen, he averages about 14 points per game. Raleigh Wooster, 10 points, gets 5 rebounds. He's a big-time passer, what leads his team with 87 assists for 29 turnovers. The key matchup to watch, UCLA's backcourt. Whoever Mick Cronin wants to cycle in playing point guard versus Raleigh Wooster, and the production between assist to turnover ratio. Who is going to win that battle? If Utah is passing the ball all around, finding easy buckets, easy shots, Wooster making UCLA look silly, and the Bruins are either having 38 minutes from Dylan Andrews shooting it and not passing it, whether it's Mac, Jan Vide, the combination of the three. If this game sees the numbers passing-wise only, passing-wise between UCLA's backcourt, whoever Mick Cronin trusts to run the point guard position, versus Raleigh Wooster, if they're closer in numbers, that favors UCLA significantly. Between turnovers to assists, those things would make a difference. The matchup between UCLA's backcourt as a point guard and the one versus Raleigh Wooster for Utah. That is the matchup to look out for. Obviously, Carlson will be big, and it'll be fun to see Bona. It's the backcourt that will make a difference for this UCLA team if Bona's on the floor. Simple. Put the ball in the basket. You can maybe win a game. That's all it comes down to for this UCLA men's basketball team. A team that knows how to put the ball in the basket, the UCLA women. It's again, beat USC week. We'll touch on that to end this podcast. For a team that's also predicted on the bracketology side to get a 1 seed. That's pretty simple. What is it? Beating a team twice in a couple of weeks. That's your bitter rival. Here next on Locked On UCLA. Well, with the NFL regular season all wrapped up, it's still time to get on the action postseason time with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Again, that's $150 in bonus bucks in bonus bets, win or lose. So the app's super easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet. Live same-game parlays. You can go check out the new Explore tab in the app. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to go find some popular parlays and more by visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. All right, cruising on, final segment here of the pod today. UCLA women's hoops clearly dominant, right? Unbeaten. And now even further separating themselves from the rest of the pack. And they haven't even played a game since Sunday. What happened? Well, it's the likes of NC State, the number 3 team in the country, falling and losing. And now UCLA is unbeaten alongside South Carolina. With the big matchup against USC, part 2 coming up for UCLA, a stretch of 3 games away from home that can truly define how battle-tested and ready they are right now for March. And if they're ready to go play in Cleveland in April for the Final Four and make that the first time in program's history to make it to an NCAA tournament Final Four. Now, where does this team lie in bracketology? Currently, the Bruins would be set to host the first round, play in the Portland regional side of things, where they would be along the sides of Louisville, who's been a pretty steady contender in NCAA tournaments recently, potentially against another Ohio State matchup. Remember last year, UCLA went on to rematch South Carolina in the Sweet 16. Ohio State seems ready for that, alongside with LSU in the same side of the bracket in this bracketology, Baylor, and then you've got Notre Dame, who could be very scrappy as well in this side based on ESPN's bracketology, which has UCLA the number 2 overall seed underneath South Carolina. I'm not sure what UCLA has to do to unseat South Carolina, yet it just seems consistent. The name, what UCLA's done, is not going to do anything unless South Carolina loses, has an ugly game, or just throttles USC, right? A team that is a top 10 team in the country. And based on this bracketology, based on what USC has done, they would, certainly host a first-round game. It's a team where if UCLA can go beat the likes of USC one more time, then easily, for sure, they'll be hosting. They still got to play Colorado, Stanford, who's now on the 1 seed line, and they got to play them on the road. They got to play Cal, who's currently the last team in. USC's number 2 on South Carolina's side of the bracket. Now that is a brutal draw if that actually happens. With UConn, they would potentially meet in the Sweet 16, even though UConn has devastating injuries left and right to their roster. Man, after all the breaks they got, Gino Auriemma's squad has not had any in this recent last few years. UCLA, remember, December 30th, beat USC 71-64. The Bruins led early, had to fight back to lead at the half, pulled away in the third, saw SC come close, only to see some London Jones triples get the Bruins ahead for good and pull away to win the game, where Juju Watkins was left behind the bench in a bit of agony. I believe cramps were plaguing her. Just UCLA overall, the physicality, and Watkins was beaten up and had missed the USC's prior game. against Long Beach State, where she didn't actually play in that game. And Juju Watkins, as much as Clayton Clark gets all the help, gets all the hype, Paige Beckers, there's so many players that get lots of love individually in the women's game. And Juju Watkins is quietly a superstar sitting in Los Angeles, forgotten about because we've got some of the best individual players we've seen all playing the college game at the same time, which makes it extremely fascinating that a player is practically forgotten about in Juju Watkins, who played arguably one of her worst games in a USC uniform and still put up 27-11, had 3 blocks, 2 steals in 39 minutes of action. Now, if the Bruins can continue to make life miserable for USC's star, Corey Close, with a game plan, maybe sticking some Cam Jones to get UCLA's likes of Cam Brown out there and have her get under her skin, irritate her, get that tension rising, then I think UCLA will be good. The one thing the Bruins need to do, they clearly got the ball in the paint to Lauren Betts, and they've got to finish much better in the paint. Betts had 6 blocks. SC could not get in the paint. Betts was a factor. Now, if they can go score easier in the paint, the Bruins missed like a bazillion layups in that game. If they could have put that game to bed, or at least led by much more in the earlier stages of that game than they did, and let USC back in it, the Bruins have to be much better shooting the basketball. They shot 35%. This team is much more capable offensively than that, because SC, I think, is going to shoot better than they did. Juju alone is going to shoot better than that. They had Raya Marshall, who only went 3 of 11. SC is going to come out playing much better at home. I'm not sure if the Galen Center will be rocking. The Bruins made it a big thing, a big deal, even in winter break with students not there, that they could sell out Pauley Pavilion for the first time in a women's game, doing so against USC. Now, can they continue the momentum? It's tough to beat someone so close in not only just the rivalry, the proximity, but so close back-to-back in a 2-week span with the emotions and the swings back and forth. This is where UCLA is vulnerable. A team ready, energized, game planning, that even though SC did not play their best game, they found a way to keep it relatively close. Now, UCLA clearly did not play their best game, and if they do, I don't think SC would beat them. If UCLA plays a perfect game like we've seen them play time and time again, I'm not sure SC's best, barring a 40-50 burger from Juju Watkins, is enough to quell the likes of any of the cast of quote-unquote superheroes for this team. Is it Charisma Osborne, who stepped up last time to close the door against the Oregon schools, right? Lauren Betts, if she plays a little bit better, struggling a little bit as of late, and struggling is a loose term, because she's still, any given night, can go for a double-double. Legend Jones, if she has that same streaky stretch from 3, dangerous. Kiki Rice didn't have the best shooting night that night, but could go and get 3 buckets at will when the Bruins needed her most in the second half. Is it a Gabriela Jaquez coming out party? Duga Leach, if she gets red hot from 3, watch. You can go up and down the lineup and pick. The Bruins have to finish it in the paint. They can't tend to be able to mix and match from the perimeter, getting to the line and getting easy points to Lauren Betts and running a transition. But capitalizing more efficiently would have put that game to way in UCLA's favor early on in that game. There's no way USC should have been within 3 in that first quarter. They didn't make a shot for close to half the quarter, right? Juju struggled so much. You cannot let a team stick in it. This is a chance for the Bruins to show once again to the rest of the country they should be the number 1 team in the country. They should be. I think so, over South Carolina. It's 1A, 1B at this moment, at this juncture, mid-January in 2024, and a team that everybody preseason picked to be among the top couple of teams in the country. And even ahead of South Carolina, and now UCLA can't jump them with wins over pretty big opponents away from home. It seems a little ridiculous to me. Go beat SC, knock them out, sweep them in the regular season, and there'll be a lot more opportunities to prove this to be the best team UCLA has ever fielded on the women's side in program history. Could be the best team they've ever fielded and go the deepest in the tournament. Keep going and keep doing and beat SC, which is where we always get to do. Get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. UCLA, let's get the job done. We'll talk more Locked On UCLA in the next episode and talk, hey, Blue Bloods, UCLA basketball, UCLA football, books and balls, some more. We'll talk all that more with Locked On UCLA in future episodes. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.